I'd planned to hike alone. The weekend weather was perfect: blue sky, crisp air with the first hint of autumn. I packed water, a sandwich, some beef jerky, and chocolate bars. The trailhead had a small dirt lot, already dotted with cars. Clearly, others had the same idea. The path was easy at first, covered in dry leaves that crunched underfoot. Sunlight cut the forest shadows into dappled patches. I liked the quiet rhythm, just my breath and the scrape of shoes against dirt. The tall cedars and oaks lining the trail gave me a strange sense of comfort. About an hour in, I stopped for water. When I looked up, I noticed a man ahead of me. Dark hoodie, jeans, a small pack slung over his shoulders. He wasn't moving fast, but no matter how I adjusted my pace, he stayed the same distance away, never closer, never farther. It felt deliberate. I decided to slow down, crouched to tie my shoe, hoping he'd keep going. But when I stood up again, he had stopped too, just standing there with his back to me. Not moving, like he was waiting. The sight twisted something in my chest. I turned around and walked back a bit, sat on a rock, pretending to rest. Minutes later, I looked up the trail. He was gone. Relief washed over me, and I pushed on, walking quicker now, just wanting to reach the summit for lunch. Rounding a patch of brush, I almost ran into him. He was standing off to the side of the path, somehow ahead of me again. His face was hidden by the hood's shadow, but his jaw was tense, lips twitching as if holding something back. He said nothing, just stared. I raised a hand in a half wave, muttered something about the nice weather, my voice too thin with nerves. He didn't reply, didn't even blink. When I tried to pass, he shifted slightly, blocking the way. I forced a smile, slipped around him, and half jogged up the trail. The climb grew steeper, roots and rocks jutting from the dirt. I kept glancing back, but the path was empty. Nothing but the whisper of wind in the treetops. Still, the unease gnawed deeper. Every step I took echoed too loud in the silence. Then came footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, closing in behind me. My throat locked. I didn't dare turn around, just pushed harder, breath ragged. My foot slipped on loose stone. I fell hard, knee cracking against rock. Pain flared white. I looked up, gasping. He was there, standing just above me on the stone steps. The sun at his back, so his face was nothing but a shadow stretched long across the ground. He didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. Then, slowly, he lifted one foot, as if to step down toward me. I scrambled backward, palms tearing against the gravel, scrambling like prey. He didn't follow. He just stood there, as if amused. Like the whole thing was entertainment. I bolted up the trail, taking the long curve around, running until my chest burned. Light flickered through the trees, my pulse pounding in my ears. Finally, the clearing opened, a small wooden pavilion at the summit, with a couple inside. A man and woman, laughing, snapping photos. I nearly stumbled into them, sat on the bench, trying to look normal, while my hands shook so badly, I almost dropped my water bottle. I didn't look back. I decided then that when they left, I'd go with them, no matter what. Time passed, and the man never appeared. Part of me wondered if I'd overreacted, but the dread never fully left. On the way down, I stuck close to the couple, listening to their easy chatter about dinner plans. Normal, harmless talk. It grounded me. About halfway down, we reached a fork in the trail. He was there, standing at the junction, hood gone this time. His face was pale, calm, waiting. He glanced at me once, then turned and slipped into the trees without a sound. I never saw him again. It was just an ordinary autumn day, cool enough to be pleasant. Sunlight slipped through thin clouds, turning the mountainside golden red. I decided to take a walk in the woods. Nothing serious, just a bottle of water and a couple of energy bars in my bag. The trail was thick with leaves, every step a soft crunch. The air smelled of wood and damp earth, sweet and rotting at the same time. Everything felt calm. The breeze nudged the branches overhead, sending the occasional leaf drifting down like someone had tossed it by hand. The path wound deeper into the forest, and I let myself enjoy the quiet, the distance from people. But as the sun leaned west, shadows stretched long across the ground. When I rounded a bend, the forest fell into an unnatural silence. No birds, no wind. Even the sound of my steps seemed muffled, swallowed by something. I froze, scanning the trees. The ground was buried in leaves, no dirt in sight, and I was alone. That's when I saw him, not far ahead, standing under an old tree, back to me. He wore a long, dark coat, too far to see his age, too still to seem right. He didn't move, but I had the gut-deep sense he knew I was there. My throat tightened. I thought about calling out, but no sound came. Slowly, he lifted one hand, pointing towards something. I followed his gesture. Nothing. Just an open patch of leaf-covered ground, shadows tangled in the fading light. The wind picked up again, spinning the leaves across the clearing. The figure bent down as if to pick something up, but from where I stood, his hand was empty. His movements were unnervingly slow, like something was dragging him. When he turned, I saw his face. My skin crawled instantly. No expression, just a grey, hollow mask, mouth slightly open, eyes glazed, empty, but fixed on me. I stepped back. A dry branch cracked under my shoe, sharp as a gunshot in the silence. The figure jerked, spasming once, then took a step toward me. It was stiff, heavy, like every movement cost him effort. My mind screamed to run, but my body locked in place as he crept closer. The leaves stirred under his feet, whispering. His eyes grew clearer as he neared, cold, lifeless. He stopped right in front of me, close enough for me to smell him. Damp earth, raw and heavy, like he'd clawed his way out of the ground. His gaze dropped to the water bottle in my hand. Then he raised one arm, fingers stretching toward my sleeve. I snapped out of it, spun around, and bolted. Leaves flew up around me, the ground blurring beneath my feet. My lungs burned, heart pounding so loud it drowned everything else. I risked a glance back. He wasn't chasing, but he still stood there, facing me, frozen like a marker waiting for me to return. By the time I stumbled down to the foot of the mountain, the sky was dark. Lights from a few distant cabins shimmered through a haze, unreachable. Sweat chilled my skin, clothes plastered to me. That night, I didn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, that grey face stared back. Days later, I forced myself to return. I wanted to see the old tree, to prove something. But when I reached it, there was nothing, just a mound of leaves at the base, the soil beneath freshly turned and damp. I stood there for a while, stomach tightening, then left without looking back. Autumn still comes, leaves still cover the trail, painting the woods in firelight colors. But now, when I hear the rustle of leaves in the wind, I don't think of peace or poetry. I hear footsteps, slow, relentless, as if someone's still there, walking, watching. The sky was clear, the air crisp with the dry scent of grass and trees. I followed the trail upward, stones and twigs cracking under my boots, while the leaves rattled in the wind. After a long stretch, hunger nudged at me, so I stopped by a jagged rock ledge, dropped my pack, and sat down to catch my breath. I unwrapped a sandwich and tore open a small pack of jerky. The salty, smoky taste mixed with the mountain air, grounding me. I wiped the dirt off my water bottle before taking a drink. Sunlight slipped between the trees, spilling over a small patch of grass at my feet. It felt like a place I could sit forever. That's when I heard it, a strange sound rising from somewhere across the valley. A faint clatter, like stone striking stone, mixed with what could have been an animal's low call. It was so soft, yet in the quiet of the mountains, it carried clear as a whisper in my ear. I stood, craning my neck to look down the slope. The edge was overgrown, weeds and roots tangling over a sheer drop. The valley below looked endless, swallowed in shadow. Curiosity pulled me closer. I stepped toward the edge, and the ground gave way. The soil crumbled under my weight. Suddenly I was tumbling, branches tearing at me, rocks slamming into my body, the rush of air filling my ears. Then darkness, mud, and pain. When I stopped rolling, I was sprawled in the damp valley floor. My right leg screamed with pain, useless. My ankle was grotesquely swollen, each touch a stab of fire. I forced myself upright against a boulder, trying to raise my foot to ease the pressure. Above me, the cliffs loomed, sunlight fading to scraps of gold too far to reach. My pack was gone, my phone too. Even my water bottle had vanished. The valley was silent except for rustling leaves and the distant cry of some bird I couldn't name. Hunger clawed at my gut, thirst burned my throat. I licked dew from damp soil, tasting grit. I tried not to think about how empty the valley felt, how the shifting shadows seemed to crawl closer as the wind stirred them. Night fell fast. I piled leaves and branches around me to block the wind, but the cold cut straight through. Every crack of a twig, every pebble tumbling down the slope sounded deliberate, like someone was throwing them. My body shook, not just from the cold, but from the awful sense of being watched. At some point, exhaustion dragged me under. I don't know if I slept or just blacked out, but the sound of tiny movements woke me. Eyes, dozens of them, gleamed in the dark not far away, foxes, maybe raccoons. They didn't approach, just stared until they turned and slipped back into the trees. My heart hammered in my chest long after they vanished. When the sky finally lightened to grey, I felt like I'd survived something I shouldn't have. My limbs were stiff and numb, pain gnawing at my ankle. I broke off the thick branches for crutches and dragged myself to a clearing, praying someone would see me. Daylight made the valley look deceptively gentle, dew glistening on every leaf, but the cold and hunger ate away at me. I shouted for help, voice bouncing back in cruel echoes. No answer. Hours bled into days. I drank dew, chewed bitter weeds until my stomach churned. On the third afternoon, a sound rose from above a helicopter. At first I thought I was imagining it, some trick of exhaustion, but it grew louder, real. I waved my makeshift crutches, screamed until my throat tore raw. The helicopter hovered overhead, then lowered a rope. Hands reached down, pulling me back toward the sky. Later, they told me my parents had called the police the day I didn't come home. If not for that, I might have stayed there forever, buried under leaves and silence. Sitting inside the helicopter, I looked down at that valley, littered with stone and shadow. And I swore I would never return. 3 days in that pit of loneliness and fear had carved themselves into my bones. Some places don't let go of you, even when you leave.